Okay, we're live.
Yeah, we are live.
Okay, so welcome. Thank you, the three of you, very, very much for doing this. And I don't know, I have no idea if anybody will actually watch this live. I know that Marshall's kids have just gotten out of the pool, and a bunch of folks are running back home desperately trying to manage everything. So Bruce Jones, who has a big job at the Spooktakular this weekend, couldn't make it onto the call, and neither could Doris. This is a terrible hour for them. But I was at a loss for when to do this, and I wanted to get him started, and I didn't want to wait anymore. So thanks to the three of you for making the time. And hopefully, I know that we have a few viewers already, which is kind of nice. And if you're watching and you have questions, I hope you'll use the chat function, and hopefully we can figure out how to actually see it.
Well, I'm on the call. I can't do anything for like an hour going.
Answer questions as we go. I'm gonna. There it is. Okay. So I wanted to do some quick introductions so that folks know who we've got here. So if you guys could go through and just tell us who you are and who you've got on the team, and in which group they are swimming, that would be a huge help. And then we can get started talking just about sort of parents and the Spooktakular and what to expect. And I'm going to try this week, and then next week hopefully I can get a slightly different subject matter, and hopefully we can make this a weekly thing. So Dave, let's start with you. Who have you got?
Sure. My name's Dave Walter. My son is Nicholas Walter. He's on IM2. He's been on the team for 4 years now, maybe?
I think so.
Yep. Loving every minute of it.
Excellent. Sally?
Hi, I'm Sally Iguchi, and I have 3 kids, twins, Emma and Mia, and I am 2 with Nick, and number 3, Lily, and I am 1. And they have been on the team, I think, about the same time as Nick. I think they started around the same time.
That's right. Oh, and I'm sorry, I have 3 cats at home, and this computer is sitting on their tower, and so every once in a while they're gonna jump around because they're not used to it. So it may look like there's an earthquake here, but it's just a cat. Scott, what about you?
Scott Brooks, and my daughter is Rylan Brooks. She's 9. She is in her 5th year at ZAP. She actually started when she was 5, and she is in IM1.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you. I'm Sherry. I'm the head age group coach at ZAP. Deanne, the head coach, is still on deck somewhere, I think up at Peninsula, and wanted to be here, but can't be in 2 places at once, contrary to popular belief. I wanted to just get us started. We have our annual ZAP Spooktakular coming up this weekend. The Spooktakular is a big deal for a number of reasons. One, it's typically the first we attend of the year, and that is the case this year for sure. And it's also a meet that we host. We don't host a whole bunch of meets throughout the year, but we do host this one. And when we host a meet, hosting a meet is kind of a big deal. It just means that we have a whole lot of jobs to fill, and those jobs are all volunteer jobs that are filled by our parents, which is a huge deal. Particularly for our new parents, this is because the meet falls in the beginning of the season. This is typically one of the first meets, if not the first meet, for a lot of our newer kids. And that can be a real source of anxiety for our newer parents because for obvious reasons, right? We're asking you to do a job and we're asking you to go away from your child, and your child is new at this and has no idea what they're doing because you're doing. And then you're separated for half a day. And you're just kind of there praying that your kid gets where they need to go, and that you do too, and you don't know anybody. And so I'm hoping that you guys can shed some light on what that's like from a parent's point of view, because I don't know what that's like from a parent's point of view. And then hopefully we can sort of answer some questions from, if you can harken back to your first meets with your kids. And then I have a couple of things that I know I want to touch on, just to make sure that we've gone through them. Oh my God, this cat. Just to make sure that we've covered all our bases, and then we'll wrap it up. So any of you have some insights in terms of what to expect, or what not to expect, or something that you were expecting your first time around that you were shocked didn't happen?
I would say, Sherry, the big thing is it seems like ZAP has a pretty good system, and parents need to trust the system and realize that their kids are going to get taken care of. I assume the buddy system is being used for the little guys.
For sure.
You just have to trust that things are going to be all right. And it's about having fun, not just for the kids, but the parents too. There's a great bunch of families within ZAP, and it's actually a great time to meet other parents. Most of the parents that I've met have been through and gotten to know have been through the swim meets, because typically you're teamed up. If you're doing a job, whether it's timing or otherwise, you're teamed up with another parent, and that gives you a chance to talk and hear about their kids and so on.
Right. Sally, Dave, either of you?
I agree with what Scott said. The only difference, I remember in a meeting once that Deanne had made a commentary. If you are not a swimmer in your past, I was, so I had an idea of how swim meets run. It is not a soccer game. It's not a tennis match. It's not any other kind of game or anything relatable to what people consider a spectator sport, where you sit for an allotted amount of time and you go against another team and then you pack up and then you're done. So trying to describe why you don't know when your swimmer is going to swim, and why you don't know how long it's going to take, and why you don't know when you're going to leave, it may be helpful to know beforehand, just to be prepared that this is nothing like a soccer game. And yes, your swimmer's only going to be in the water for 2 minutes, but nobody's going to tell you it's between 10-10 and 10-13. It's just part of the process of the meet, which is very different than anything else, unless you're a parent or somebody you know is a swimmer.
Yeah, I mean, having never been a swimmer before, that's definitely something you have to get used to as a parent, just as the swimmers do. And that, yeah, you've got to pay attention, make sure you know what's going on when your kids are due to swim, and just enjoy the meet, enjoy meeting people, like Scott said, and trust that your kids are going to do the same.
I think that's a really good, my screen just froze up. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, great. I think that's a really good point. The reason that I think that meetings like this are so important is for exactly that reason, that swimming is unique in terms of its competitions. It is so different. And it's not okay, you're going to start at this time and you're going to finish at this time, and everybody's going to jump in at the same time and play their game, and then they're going to jump out and it's all done. It is a very different feel, and everything is based on who shows up. So you know, our general timeline is based on who signs up, and then our actual timeline is based on who shows up. And I think that that's something that you don't have a feel for when you're new, and it's hard to even have a feel for when you're kind of not so new. And I wanted to kind of explain that process to folks who don't know what that process is. We have the host team releases a meet format to the entire committee, which is basically our league, and it's made up of about 13 teams. And the teams all go back to their respective families and get basically RSVPs. They get all of their entries together, and there's an entry deadline typically of a week and a half to 2 weeks before the meet starts. So a week and a half out, all of those entries get sort of tabulated and then sent into whoever's processing all of those entries. They're all done by computer. They're all done in computer files. And inevitably, there's something wrong with somebody's file. At least one person's, at least one team's, if not 3 or 4. Almost every team will have some kind of what we call kickbacks. You put the entry file into the program that we use to run swim meets, and 6 kids get kicked back for some reason, like their registration number doesn't match up to what's in USA Swimming, or they're not registered with the team, or they're entered in events that they don't qualify for. There's something up, and so those have to go back to the coach of the team. The coach has to fix them. That has to go back to the meat processor. So there's a little bit of kind of fix-it time before everything is sort of finished and there's a finished product, and that takes quite a while. Typically at least a week, if not a week and a half. Everybody's working as quickly as they can. Typically, anybody who's processing meat usually has a full-time real job, and they're doing that as a gift to us. And then finally they put it all together and they give us what's sort of an estimated timeline. This is based on everybody who's going to be in the meet, everybody who has entered and told us they're going to be there, and everybody who's entered all their different events. This is how long it's going to take. We typically get that the Wednesday before the meet starts. Once we get that timeline, then we also get what's called timing assignments, which means you have this many kids in the team, from your team coming. That means you're going to be responsible for this much timing, this many chairs. And so we go back and we calculate, we make some timing assignments typically for this meet. There's a whole lot of other assignments. And then we kind of try and put together a general timeline for all of our parents. And then Deanne typically sends out what we call a meet guide. That meet guide, depending on what she's got going on that Wednesday night, will either go out that Wednesday night or it'll go out that Thursday at some point. If you're signed up for the meet, or you think you're signed up for the meet and you don't get a meet guide from Deanne via email by Thursday night before you're supposed to be at a meet that weekend, something is drastically wrong. And we had an issue at our first meet of the season at TSM where a bunch of people didn't get a meet guide, and we didn't know. Nobody said anything. We had no idea that people hadn't gotten it. And then at 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, Deanne got a text from somebody saying, "Where were we supposed to go?" If we don't know that you didn't get it, then we can't send it to you. But if we know, if somebody says something, then we can make sure that everybody has what they need to have. So typically by Thursday night, that's all out, all the information that everybody needs to get there. Once you show up at the meet, there might be illness, something has gone on. I've already been told by 2 of my swimmers that they're not going to be able to make it to the meet this weekend for various reasons. And that happens on every team. So if you have 70 kids entered, you might have 60 who show up. Since we don't want to waste a bunch of time running a bunch of empty lanes, We have all the kids check in the day that they get there and tell us that they're going to swim. Once they all tell us that they're going to swim, then we run a second timeline that tells us, okay, this is actually how long this is probably going to take based on what they've told us their times are. It's still estimated. It's not totally accurate because we have no idea how long it's going to take everybody to swim their races. And then the meet starts and everybody swims, and you just swim it as fast as you possibly can. Sometimes there are problems with our timing system. Sometimes somebody doesn't show up for their timing chair and there are delays. There are weird things that happen with our computer system. Things break down. Weird stuff happens. And it'll push us back for 10 minutes at a time. And so we really, truly don't know when your kid is going to swim. The only way to know is just to kind of follow along and know what event numbers your child is swimming, and then you know, sort of pay attention, perk up when that event number is going, and be aware when they dive in, and then of course blink and you'll miss it, which happens a lot.
I mean, it's normally good as a parent as well as a swimmer, obviously, to check the heat and lane assignments. So you know not just when the event is, but you can pay attention to which heat and which lane to actually pay attention to.
And can you talk about where those usually are, Dave?
At East LA College, they are generally for the parents. They're on the stairs at each end of the upper deck where all the parents sit and watch, the observation deck. They'll post them on the stairs down to the toilets, just along that side wall there.
Right. Okay. Does that sound pretty accurate to you guys? Is there anything I've left out of that process?
Well, as I'm listening to you, I mean, this is helpful, but I'm not sure, is our audience mostly new to this experience? Because if so, then I think we gotta take it back a little bit, high level view of the forest, because some of these, I could see where some of these details about heat and lane, well, what's a heat and lane? I have no idea what a heat and lane is, may be too much detail. So as you were discussing kind of the process of how a meet comes together, I kind of was just writing down the highlights of a meet in general and how the process works at a high level view. So, because I'm not sure if the audience is primarily looking for detailed information, which is helpful, what you just described is helpful to me to know some of that background, or just I have no idea what I'm doing and I just want to know what I'm supposed to do on Saturday with my kid. So if that's the case, maybe we should do just a scaled down framework of this is a meet and this is the process of a meet and generally this is what happens.
Yeah, let's talk about sort of what happens when you bring your kids to the meet on Saturday morning, from your perspective.
I can chime in on that a little bit. So obviously you park the car. The parking lot is adjacent to the swim complex, which is really nice. You can't miss it. You'll walk into the swim complex. You'll locate ZAP. They're typically a bunch of white tents, pop-up tents. Or are they going to be out on the outside deck, I assume, Sherry?
Yeah.
Okay. And you'll basically turn your kid over to their coach. And typically, that's when the process usually starts with ZAP. They'll get with their group. They'll typically get ready to jump in the pool for a warm-up. And at that point, the parents don't really need to worry, but the parents need to check in for Z-Force to let them know that they're there and to make sure that they understand their job and where to be. And it's also your chance to ask questions if you're not sure about a job that you may be doing for the first time. That's a good time to ask the check-in person, which is usually somebody standing around the ZAP tents with a clipboard. You can't miss them. And if you do, chances are they're going to come find you eventually.
Are we doing the marquee for swimmers again this year?
Say that again, Dave.
Are we doing the swimmer marquee? You know, the big white tent in the corner. Are we doing that where swimmers are separated?
Yeah. So
okay.
Once again, there will be an athlete tent as well as.
So that's
an athlete tent, and then there will be parent observation up in the.
Yeah. So that's one thing where this swim meet differs from most other swim meets where the parents and the swimmers all sit together. Here, the swimmers go off, they're isolated in their tent, they sit together. Normally, the Z-Force check-in is at a table right outside the entrance to that, so as you drop your kid off, you can then check in. Generally, look for the person holding the green clipboard, which is normally Doris, but could be Rebecca Elaine or possibly somebody else. Generally, look for the. And then, yeah, make your way up to the observation deck, find a space to sit, and wait for the meet to start.
Does that sound pretty? Have we missed anything? And once the meet starts, you know. So, and I know that Deanne had wanted me to go through sort of the general rundown of different jobs, and so, and I will do that. Dave, just as an aside, I cannot for the life of me find the chat that people who are watching should be able to be participating in. Do you see it at all?
I have the chat open on the right-hand side.
Yeah, but I think that's just for us.
Oh, it says group chat. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's just us. I don't think that is what everybody else. If you will explore that.
Yeah, I'm doing so right now.
That would be great.
Sherry, one thing else I would say is that I think is important is for newer parents, give yourself plenty of time to get there, especially going up to East LA College, because it seems like without fail, Caltrans will have the 91 connector closed and you've got to go up to some other freeway to get there. And so give yourself plenty of time, and that way it keeps the stress down on both the swimmer and mom and dad.
I think that's a great point. Always aiming to get there early is a really great idea, especially if you're new, because you know, inevitably you're going to mess it up, and messing it up is fine, but it also creates stress for everybody. Also, they charge for parking, and Deanne will put this in her meet guide, but they do charge for parking. I think they charge $5. Is that right?
Yes.
I typically wind up getting them before they start charging, so I rarely have to pay. But, yeah. I'm pretty sure they charge $5.
Yeah, $5 a day.
I have that ready. So once you've checked in, you know, so the parent checks in with the Z-Force person, and I do believe that that's going to be Bruce Jones this time around, and Bruce is tough to know. Then you're sort of free to roam about the cabin for a little while, and then warm-ups get started, and the kids kind of leave you, and you don't really. I don't know. Do you see them much after that?
Sometimes, maybe between events, they'll come find you, say hi, and then quickly scamper off.
Yeah.
Is that?
I think when they're younger, they will. Yes. As they get older, they do that less and less.
Yeah, Sally, is that the same with your girls?
What was the question?
Do you see your kid, like once warm up starts, do you see your kids a lot after that?
I would agree with what Dave and Scott. Sometimes it depends. With the East LA venue at the Spooktakular, it is really a division where the team is really physically separated from all the parents and the spectators. So that's one unique criteria where even if I as a parent wanted to, the kid would have to go find the parents because the way that it's set up, the team and the kids are in one location and the spectators and parents are in a completely different location, which is not close to each other. But I don't know, I've had a crier for 2 years, so, when crier number 1 stops, then crier number 2 starts, so I have empathy for those Klingon parents, which I am one of. Now, they're getting much better now after, 4 years, which in my case were like dog years, but. But one thing I did kind of do a very quick outline on the process of the meet. The first thing that happens is the sign up. You sign up for the meet. Then you can check what events your child is in based upon coach placement. And I'm not going to go into details on how you do these steps, but in general, I'm just going to do an overview. Then prior to the meet, you will get a meet guide through the email. And the meet guide is a program details about the chronological order of how the meet will be held, which will have your child's swim event in order of how the meet will happen. Then you go to the meet. And once you go to the meet, both parents will check in for their jobs and the swimmers will check in for to make sure that what they're swimming is what actually they will be in. After check-in, then there's generally a team meeting. Then after the team meeting, there's a warm-up. After all the warm-ups, the meet starts, and parents, you follow along with the meet guide chronologically. It'll start with event 1 typically, and then just go down in chronological order. Once I forgot one step. After the warm up, then there will be postings by event on where your swimmer in that event will be swimming in what order. And that information, heat, event, heat, and lane will be posted in Spooktakular. They are posted I believe it's the southeast corner of the venue. They will write that information down on their wrist with a Sharpie, and that will be to each child to know the prompt for when they are supposed to hear or listen for their event called up and when they're supposed to go. Then they swim, everybody's happy, nobody cries, everybody finishes, and it's all good.
I've been looking down because I've been trying to access this whole thing on my phone so that I could find the chat, which I've done, which is totally cheating, but at least I found it. A couple of things, some great comments. One of the things that Tina DeMeglio has talked about is just to make sure that folks know that when kids check in, they've got to check in, not the parents. And that's so true, because if the parents try and get in line and check in for their kids, they'll be rejected. Like the check-in folks will just say, yeah, sorry, you can't be here. Plus the line to check in always becomes impacted and kind of ridiculous in terms of, I mean, how many people are in the line, and more bodies is not necessarily always so we try and keep try and keep parents away from there as much as possible. Not because we don't love you, just because
Yeah.
the kids definitely do it on their own, and even the kids who don't know, even if it's their first time around, it's not a big deal because we buddy the kids up completely. Like Scott was saying earlier, you know, kids who are new, even if it's not their first meet, if it's their second, third, fourth, fifth, they're still gonna have a buddy who's gonna take them through the check-in process and make sure that they're comfortable and they've got everything down. I have somebody else who's talking about the hard part of working as a parent at ELAC is the parents standing on the railing, and we're going to get into to the different jobs, but that's the marshal job, which is always everybody's favorite. I'm happy to announce that Bruce Jones had a stroke of genius this year, and we are hiring a private security firm to be our marshals this year. So
good idea.
Worth every penny. So our parents do not have to do the marshaling job. We do not have to have any confrontations with parents up at the railings. That'll all be done by guys with badges who are bigger and stronger and don't care.
Yes.
Which should go much more smoothly for us.
That's one of the things I was going to bring up, especially when you mentioned swimmer check-in, was, you know, as a parent, it's very hard to resist the urge to run down the stairs from the observation deck and go and get involved. But that's exactly what you need to do, both for your own sanity and for your kids, because it doesn't end well. Trust me, I've been there. So
I'm so happy to hear you say that.
Yes. It is a learning process both for your swimmer and for you. Let's put it that way.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Todd Walter is also saying, make sure your swimmer has food and liquids with them in the swimmer tent, as the parents are definitely separated. And that's definitely true. If you are planning on bringing a whole bunch of food for the whole family and you have it all in one cooler, the cooler is going to go somewhere where half of you aren't. So you want to sort of plan for that. If you have, you know, some sort of, I don't know, lunchbox or some sort of situation where you can divide things up so that your swimmer has some water and Gatorade and
you want to be on the video call, go away and close the door, please, because I can hear you guys.
Whatever, that's helpful, and that way everybody can drink.
Sherry and Sally
be on separate ends of the venue. Let's see. Tina is calling the area where our kids sit ZAP Canopy Land, which I love. And Henry Wang says that he's pretty sure the 710 is still having construction near the intersection of the 10 and the 710. I put everything into Waze the night before and then just hit it in the morning while I'm trying to get my coffee into me as quickly as possible and trust that it's going to take me the fastest way. Waze is programmed with all of the various and sundry construction zones as well, and typically takes you where you need to go. Todd says the 710's open this weekend, so we'll see how that works. But there's always an alternate route right over there. There's always a way around. Okay, what else are we missing about that sort of that process of the heats and lanes and the sort of the flow of the meet before we get into jobs? Anything?
No, I don't think of anything.
Dave, I'm just so proud of you for saying what you just said about the crying. I just don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
Just so happy. Okay, I am bringing this up on my phone. So there are a whole lot of jobs, and actually, I think the three of you, among the three of you, you guys have done quite a few of them, actually.
Yes.
So you may be able to provide a lot more insight than I can. So when we don't host a meet, we're typically what we're responsible for is timing. Once in a while, we're responsible for timing and running, and I can describe running in a minute. It's not what it sounds like, and that's about it. We also have some parents who are trained officials, and so you might see some of our parents at other meets that we're not hosting who are working as officials. That's not something that we have required them to do. It's something that they are volunteering to do, and because they're awesome. But when we host a meet, it's a whole different ballgame, and we have a whole slew of different jobs. Hospitality, one, it's like a free snack bar for everybody who works the meet, which just means that if you're working, you can go into hospitality and there's food there for you for free at any time. So it's if you are working,
it's not for the swimmers though.
No, because the swimmers are not working.
Yeah.
Swimmers are swimming, which is a whole different ballgame. But it's for the folks who are working much longer shifts, and in particular the officials and the coaches who are there all day, and who don't have a minute to spare. As coaches, it's difficult for us to get up at all, and even walk over to grab a bottle of water. So typically I get up and I run over there and I'll grab about 5 or 6, and then I'll come back and just set them up. And that's about it. I get up maybe once in a session, but it's tough for us to get up, and if I had to use the snack bar, I don't think I'd be able to do it. I don't think I'd eat, period.
And for people that are timing, someone will come around with drinks on a periodic basis just to make sure everyone's good there as well.
Right, and that's also a function of hospitality. So if you're working hospitality, you are preparing food, you're setting food out, you are setting up food in very small cups that are going to be grabbed by officials and timers. You're bringing food out to the officials area, and just kind of laying it out for them so that they can reach back and grab it in between heats. It's a whole lot of food service. Deck marshals, we already went over, but basically a deck marshal is somebody who is making sure that everybody's staying where they need to stay, according to our insurance policies and according to USA Swimming policies. So, which basically means that in the warm-up, warm-down area, kids are swimming and not roughhousing, so they're not, cracking heads open unnecessarily. And that the parents are staying in the parent area and not coming down onto the deck, and where space is very, very limited. That everybody's kind of getting along, that the kids are not going where they shouldn't be, that sort of deal. That sort of traffic is smooth.
The other thing that may get enforced more this year, since we have official deck marshals, is that the railing along the top of the observation deck that is see-through. In previous years, people like to stand there and watch, but that is a fire lane that we've been told numerous times needs to be kept clear. So unless your kid is actively swimming or is maybe coming up in the next heat, try to resist the urge to stand against the railing and have conversations and just block the lane. Step back into the actual stands. That area needs to be kept clear.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a biggie. Hospitality or the marshals so far?
No.
Okay. Heat winner prizes are exactly like what it sounds like. You are down on the deck. You're standing toward, like, right by the blocks, but kind of out of the general traffic pattern, with usually a basket full of some kind of prize. We've done pencils, we've done pens, we've done ducks, we've done all kinds of different prizes, decals, tattoos, whatever. And you keep your eye on the finish of the race, and whoever wins the heat, not the event, but whoever wins that heat gets a heat prize. So you run up to, you track down the kid who won the heat, and you give them whatever that prize is in the basket. The kids love you. You're a very popular person. And a runner for admin, an admin runner is definitely want to wear your running shoes, but you're not going to actually be running. You're somebody who is taking paper from one place to the other, basically. The admin desk is in a very central location, and paper needs to go to lots of peripheral locations. For example, the printouts need to go to the announcer so that the announcer can announce who's in the water when. The runner will take those sheets of paper and deliver them over to the announcer. Then the runner will also take sheets of results from the different races and bring them over to the postings for both the athletes and the parents, and make sure that they're hung up in the right place so that everybody can see who won what. Postings also for heats and lanes are also done that way by the runners. So the runner is grabbing those papers and then bringing them over to the posting area, putting them in the right sleeves where they need to go. If there's some other kind of errand that needs to happen, some other thing that needs to be gotten, a runner may do that as well. But typically that runner is standing by waiting for those papers and then running them over to where they need to go as quickly as possible.
The other big thing that's run are the timing sheets for the manual timing in the lanes.
Yes.
So you'll be running new copies over for that and picking up the completed sheets, bringing them back to admin so they can verify those times against the times in the computer and then make the results official.
Completely forgot about those. That's a great segue into timing. When you're timing, there are typically 3 timers per lane. 2 of those people are doing a relatively simple job of getting up, grabbing what's called a pickle, which is a button that's attached to the timing system, the computerized timing system, and hitting the button on the finish. One of the timers is doing something a little bit more complicated, pressing start and stop on an actual stopwatch, and then writing the time that's on the stopwatch down on a sheet on a timing sheet of paper gets picked up by the runners and delivered back over to admin. It's like a backup system in case the electronic system goes down.
Generally, we have 2 separate people doing the stopwatch and the writing down, just so that it's not so crazy for the one person to do everything. And probably the one big piece of advice I would have there is if you miss the start with the stopwatch, or the stopwatch malfunctions and doesn't start, or you can't reset it in time, don't panic. There's a head timer sitting at the end of the blocks. They have 2 stopwatches. They're also starting them when the buzzer goes and you see the light on the starting block. So just put your hand up, say malfunction. They will bring one over, swap it out for you, so you will have a working stopwatch. So it's not the end of the world. You can make sure you've got something functioning, but do it quickly, because if it's a 50, you don't have a lot of time to get them over to you to get a working stopwatch.
And I would add on to what you said, Dave. Sometimes there's a lot of people standing around the blocks, so if your stopwatch malfunctions or you don't get it set right, wave your hand, but also don't be afraid to run down to where the head timer is and grab it from them, because they may not be able to see you. I've done that job a lot, and there's so many people standing in line. It's hard for the head timer to actually see if somebody's got a problem.
Perfect. And now I don't have to explain head timer.
So I don't know if you go over this, Sherry. The other thing that the timers do is check in the swimmers for the upcoming heats to make sure that the swimmers know how far out they are. They will come in. I mean, you'll have a lot of swimmers coming to you and saying, "I want, where am I? What is it right now?" They get nervous and worried about it. So keeping them organized and checking in. So when somebody starts, you're calling out for the next one to make sure that the event, the heats flow smoothly, and that keeps the timeline more accurate. Definitely helps.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Has any of you ever worked check-in?
I think I have.
How? Talk to me about how that runs from your point of view.
So check-in is a job that begins prior to when the meet starts. It's one of the earlier arrival jobs, and you are given a list of names, basically similar to the meet guide, in order of event, and you sit at a table, and that's when the swimmers come to you. They give you your name. You find their name on the paper, and you check off or highlight that they are there, and you just go down the line. It's just a verification to ensure that what is expected, the number of kids and who they are, is what really happens on the day of the meet. As Sherry mentioned earlier, they want to fill all those lanes and not have any gaps. So if there are people missing, they just want to be aware of that and not have an empty spot for them. And typically that lasts, anywhere, and it's broken down by age group, probably in Spooktakular's case. So there will be 8 and unders, 9 and 10, 11, 12, and 13s and over. And you just go, the kids stand in line by their age group and possibly by alphabetical order, A through L and M through Z, and then you just check off their name that they're there. And
the other thing you're doing there is verifying for the kid which events they're actually swimming.
Oh, that's correct.
So they will get the event numbers, and that's when they generally write it on their hands with a Sharpie.
Yes.
Bring your own Sharpie. Makes things easier.
Can't stress it enough.
Bring more than one, because guaranteed one of them's gonna walk away somewhere.
Right. Please.
No, Sherry, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to drop off of this call.
Totally fine. Totally fine. Thank you. Thank you. We've got 10 more minutes. I'm gonna cut it off in 10 minutes, but get out of there, Sally.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks. Okay, thanks.
All right. We've got a couple more jobs, gentlemen, and then we'll be out of here. So we've done check-in. We've done, announcer is kind of obvious. You get a bunch of things to announce. Basically, the people who are running the meet will tell you what to say, and you say it into the microphone. That's about it. And if you're really good, you'll bring your own playlist of music that you can plug into the sound system during breaks to keep us going. But that's a bonus, not a requirement. We've done heat winners, we've done timing, we've done marshals, we've done head timer, we've done check-in, we've done deck officials. Oh my God.
Are we done?
I think we've got it. Z-Force check-in. Z-Force check-in actually on Saturday morning. It looks like it's going to be Rebecca Lelaine. She's another one to look for. It won't be Bruce. It'll be Rebecca.
Okay.
And I think that's about, honest to God, I think that's it.
Sherry, the one thing I would say for newer parents, the stuff we've talked about may seem overwhelming, and there's probably no context if they've never been to a meet.
Right.
But what I can say is when you get there, it will start to make sense. There's plenty of time, so it's not like there's a huge time crunch to sort anything out. Just relax, and ask. If you don't understand something, just ask another parent. There are more experienced parents there than inexperienced parents, and you know, everybody within ZAP has always been pretty helpful that I've found. So things come together and it will all make sense, and you'll be a pro after the first meet.
Yeah, we're all big family, so don't be afraid to ask anything. There are no stupid questions.
100%. That's also the other reason why I love it when our parents wear ZAP gear. Is, you know, new parents don't know who the other ZAP parents are. And when you're wearing ZAP gear, when you're wearing a ZAP shirt or a hat or something that says ZAP on it, that's really helpful, especially to our newer parents who have no idea who anybody is. Even to some of our parents who have, you know, whose kids have been around for a while, but for whatever reason, they haven't been able to go to a bunch of meets, and so they don't recognize people. You know, it's really, really helpful to have folks wearing ZAP stuff so that, you know, somebody who doesn't know a whole lot of people can walk right up to somebody and say, hey, you're from ZAP. Do you know where we go? You know, who's Rebecca Lelaine? I don't know this woman. You know, whatever it is, that's hugely, hugely helpful to the whole team. And you know, that's the other thing Sally had said, you know, oh, the team sits over here and the parents sit over here. I consider the parents part of the team. You guys are a huge, huge part of what we do. We couldn't possibly do any of this without you. And so you are part of the team. There's no chance that our kids swim, you know, without any of you guys at all. So ever. So, and I will tell Sally that tomorrow when I see her. Anything else you think that we've missed? I wholeheartedly agree, Scott, that, you know, to a new parent, it always sounds overwhelming, no matter what. At every parent meeting from the dawning of time that I've ever done or been to, I always know that the new parents are, you know, they get that glazed over look like, oh my, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then it starts to gel if you just kind of have patience and deal with it.
Just got to show up.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other questions on chat we need to address?
I don't think so. I just set it down, but let's see. I don't think so. The last one that I have is from Todd Walter saying the 710 is open.
Okay.
Oh, nope. Sorry. Now there is more stuff. Tina DeMeglio says, don't be afraid to time. It's the best seat in the house, and she's absolutely right. And please don't be on your cell phone while timing. Huge. Please leave your phone somewhere else. I can't tell you how many times we wind up with a kid losing out on a time because somebody was on their cell phone. Stopwatch timer will also use a pickle. If you're not sure about being able to push the stop on the watch and the pickle at the same time, opt for one of the other spots. Absolutely. You know, the other, you know, with 3 parents doing, you know, you divvy up all the work with the timing. Yeah. It's all not rocket surgery at all, and you just kind of work it out. But it's
one other thing that's worth mentioning with the timing, because I've seen this happen on a number of occasions, especially on the longer events. Like I know we're doing the 500 on Sunday. If you are timing that, please make sure you're counting the laps that your swimmer is swimming. Yeah. Because the worst thing in the world, and I've seen this happen, is to have you stop and the swimmer swum the wrong number of laps and the time's invalid. And if you think that's bad for you, think how much it feels for the swimmer after they've swum 500 and swum for 6, 7, 8 minutes, depending on how old they are, only to find that they didn't get the time they thought they got.
100%. Yeah, very, very. That's like the best kept secret in town. If you're timing for a distance event, it's a really good idea to keep a tally of how many laps your swimmer has swum, and that swimmer is probably not your child. But it's still a good idea to keep a running tally of how many 50s they've done.
Even on the 200, which is, I think we have quite a lot of those, it's very easy to lose track of how many laps they've done. So
there's always one who stops at 6.
Yeah, and don't base it off of what their previous time was, because they may not have swum it in a while, and they may swim a lot faster than you think they are. So, or they may be swimming a lot slower. You never know.
Todd reminded me that there's another crucial job, and that's staging. And the person who's doing staging is herding cats. Basically, you are a cat herder. That is for all of the events that are 25s that are starting from the non-starting block pool, and that's typically all of the very, very small children in our meets, and they start from the other end. I don't know if we have any 25s at this meet, but I'm not sure. I don't know, and this computer will crash if I look. I'm not going to try and look, but I don't think we have any, which is probably why they weren't on the list at the end. That's probably why I skipped it, Todd. But thank you, because staging will show up somewhere else. But so when your child is swimming 25s, they typically, their heats and lanes do get posted, but then they also go over to this area where it's kind of like a corral. I swear it's like a corral. Best way for me to put it. And then an adult of some sort arranges all the children in their heats and lanes geographically, and then marches them out the pool in order of heats and lanes, so that they are lined up and ready to go in the order that they're going to race.
Arrange them several times.
It's pretty spectacular when it works.
I just checked, Sherry. We don't have 25s on the.
Okay. Yeah. So no 25s at the Spooktakular, but eventually there will be. So, and everybody who's on here looking, for general meet guidelines, that is something that happens. And then Tina was asking if we're sitting in the bleachers or the canopies. So the kids will be in athlete land, in ZAP Kid land, over under the white canopy thing down on the slab. And the parents will all be up in the balcony area. And we will be sure that there is a team area there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My clock just hit 8:30. What do you think, guys?
I think we covered it.
Do we have it? Did we do it all?
Yeah. Hopefully.
Right. I think we got all the questions. Oh my God. Thank you to you two, as well as to Sally, and thanks to all of you for coming and watching and participating on the chat. That was fantastic, because this was a total experiment, but I think it worked. I promise I will play around with the timing so that we can get times where they don't have to be in 2 places at once. Sure. Next week, I'm hoping to do another one, and I'm hoping to have it be about sort of our master calendar, going over what's in store for the rest of the season, just so that people sort of know what's coming up and what those things are, and what they should and should not be signing up for, that sort of thing. And also sort of a little rundown on when we know what we know and why, so that I know that there's been a lot of confusion lately about with the lights and with changing practice times and that kind of stuff, and I know that can be frustrating it's very frustrating for us as well. That's not something that we, you know, we don't hold on to information and then release it late or anything like that. We are waiting with bated breath for the information from many different places, usually the district, and as soon as we get it to you. But I think that we could do a better job of getting that getting that process a little bit clearer for everybody, so that everybody knows sort of what goes on and what goes into that process. So hopefully we can make that next week's. And if you guys have any other suggestions for other topics for what we could do for these, I am all ears, because I want to keep these up and keep them going.
Well, good job, Sherry. I think it was a great idea to do. I think it's going to make it a lot easier for a lot of parents.
Cool. Well, good, because we're coaching a lot more kids, and I feel terrible when I don't have a chance to talk to everybody on deck. So hopefully this gives us a little bit more of a chance to chat. So, all right, guys.
Okay.
Thank you. Get back to your kids. Tell everybody hi. We'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye, bro.
Bye.